Hi folks, I want to bring you up to speed with something that's happening today, which is that I've developed mild symptoms of the coronavirus. That's to say a temperature and a persistent cough. And on the advice of the chief medical officer, I've taken a test that has come out positive. So I am working from home, I'm self-isolating, and that's entirely the right thing to do. But be in no doubt that I can continue, thanks to the wizardry of modern technology, to communicate with all my top team to lead the national fight back against coronavirus. And I want to thank everybody who's involved. I want to thank, of course, above all, our amazing NHS staff.
As the fight against the coronavirus pandemic rages on, some of the most historic and visited places in the world are getting disinfected as the virus can live on surfaces for days. In Egypt, the Pyramids of Giza complex was sanitized. The pyramids, which are the last standing wonders of the ancient world, need special care and attention. They're a huge part of Egypt's tourism industry. Crews sanitized walkways leading up to the pyramids, as well as the visitor center. The attraction usually receives millions of visitors a year, but this year is different. In Turkey, a team of cleaners sprayed off Istanbul's Grand Bazaar.
The American aircraft carrier, the USS Theodore Roosevelt, could potentially end up becoming a COVID-19 hotspot. 25 sailors on board the warship have now tested positive for the virus so far. The U.S. Navy has decided to test all 5,000 personnel aboard the aircraft carrier as a precaution. The ship is currently in the Pacific Ocean and is still capable of launching all military operations, but it will soon dock at the Guam port for further medical procedures. The USS Roosevelt was last deployed to the Vietnamese city of Da Nang 2 weeks back, but at this point in time, it's unclear how the sailors were infected. Navy officials believe that dozens of sailors on board the warship could be infected at this point.
Healthcare systems across the globe remain overburdened this hour, with the number of confirmed coronavirus cases now standing at over 500,000. More than 82,000 of the infected live in the US, meaning the country has now surpassed China and Italy. President Trump, however, remains confident that his country will be back and open for business by Easter Sunday. That's April the 12th. The state of Louisiana in the south is, though, fast becoming a virus hotspot, with the number of new cases surging there by 500. But the hardest hit area there remains New York State.
Novel coronavirus has infected more than 500,000 people across the world and claimed the lives of more than 24,000. According to the World Health Organization, the outbreak is accelerating at an exponential rate. Listen in.
The pandemic is accelerating. It took 67 days from the first reported case to reach the first 100,000 cases. 11 days for the second 100,000 cases, and just 4 days for the third 100,000 cases.
South Africa is one of the world's most divided and unequal societies. So, of course, the experience of this lockdown, which is possibly one of the strictest measures imposed in Africa, is going to be very different. For the majority of South Africans, it's going to be painful. They live very hand-to-mouth. They rely on the informal economy, which is going to be absolutely obliterated during this lockdown. And of course, the majority of South Africans are living in poverty. Just up the road from me in the township, it's unimaginable how people can practice social distancing or self-isolate if they displayed symptoms. When people are living so cheek by jowl, families living in one room, large numbers of families sharing ablution facilities and queuing at a standpipe for water.
Oh no, I ain't messing with you. Oh no.
This reporter didn't want anything to do with the bison that were roaming nearby while he was out in the field covering a story at Yellowstone National Park. So he quickly packed up and got in his car.
Oh no, I'm not messing with you.
Little did he know, the whole event was recorded on his camera.
Normally, I would hit the button and put my gear away. But I guess I got so caught up in the moment, I was just worried of my safety.
Dion Broxton is a reporter for NBC Montana and has been to Yellowstone more than a dozen times. He knew when one of the bison made eye contact, it was time to hightail it.
He just began walking towards me, and I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to stick around to see what happens if I stay here.
We estimate that somewhere between 200 and 250 metric tons of cocaine are shipped out of Venezuela by these routes.
A virtual news conference, but for a very real target.
Today I'm here to talk about the former Maduro regime and its direct participation in narco-terrorism, corruption, money laundering, and drug trafficking.
A series of charges against Nicolas Maduro, the man who leads Venezuela, and some of the most senior figures in his government. The Justice Department alleges that running a drug gang called the Cartel of the Suns, Maduro worked with the FARC rebels in Colombia to ship hundreds of tons of cocaine into the US, taking bribes and sharing the profits.
Maduro and his other defendants have betrayed the Venezuelan people and corrupted Venezuela's institutions.
Fewer bases, fewer people. The US-led coalition in Iraq is preparing to downsize. On Thursday, US troops packed up their facilities at Qayyara airfield in northern Iraq and handed over $1.7 million worth of equipment to Iraqi security forces. Bases like these are not only used for training, but also as a launching pad for joint anti-ISIL operations. Coalition officials say the move has been planned for months as part of efforts to increase the self-reliance of Iraqi security forces.
Our partnership continues with the Iraqi security forces, but in the future, you will see coalition troops in fewer places with fewer faces.
The global pandemic has grounded a recently soaring airline industry, leaving planes idle in a chain of parking lots stretched around the globe. Airlines have canceled thousands of flights. Etihad, Emirates, and more than 50 airlines have stopped flying at all, disinfecting those still in service as airports and flights sit largely empty. Across the U.S., those airline woes have hit home, shutting down airport control towers after workers fell ill at Chicago's Midway International Airport and nearly a dozen others. On Monday, the U.S. Senate approved what some analysts are calling the mother of all bailouts for U.S.-based airlines, with $88 billion in aid for aviation.